Welcome back. We now want to continue and move on to the discussion that we have lined up for you today. And this is just a build-up to a conversation that we started last week, focusing on mental health and more so looking at the teen population, given they are one of the categories that is hugely affected when it comes to mental health, wellness and illness, as well as teen pregnancies, as per what the last 2 years have shown us. And just taking you back to some of the stats that we were able to share with you from the World Health Organization, when it comes to the global burden of mental illnesses, 10 to 19-year-olds, they make up 13% of the global mental illness burden. 13% of the entire global population are aged between 10 and 19 years of age. And still looking at the category of the ages between 15 and 19, suicide has been found to be the 4th leading cause of death among this population. And that is a worrying trend. That is an extremely worrying trend, given that suicide has become an alternative for this particular age group when it comes, and more so stemming from mental illnesses and diseases that they have been struggling with. So today, we want to continue with this conversation, and we have with us two ladies to still help us with this conversation. To my extreme right, we have Karira, who is a youth and a teen mentor. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, thank you.
Thank you for being with us today, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to Jain.
All right, and to my immediate right, we have Chege, who is a psychologist as well as a transformational coach. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Merry Christmas as well.
Merry Christmas to you.
No, Merry Christmas before we leave the show. All right, now let's just pick up from where we left off last week. And, for the benefit of those that are joining us today for the first time, in regards to this conversation, just your general opinion on some of the statistics that we're just seeing here from the World Health Organization, given 13% of the global burden aged between 10 and 19. And last week we were talking about Nenini and stress our total, something we can easily laugh off. Let me start with you, Catherine.
Let me pick it up from suicide.
Yes.
It's very depressing for a parent to hear of children committing suicide. And I want to tell our children and all of us that suicide is a terrible, horrible, permanent solution to a temporary problem. If we could just be caring to listen and to talk out, we don't have to commit suicide. Let me also tell them that the Bible tells me, I'm a Christian, Jain, and I walk with it every day. The Bible tells me that a living dog is better than a dead lion. And let me also tell you that you're better off living than dead, rotting in the grave because of committing suicide, waiting for judgment. We would want to look at problems as not too major. We can talk and overcome problems. And I always advocate that we can use the word ask. Ask as an acronym, where I admit I have a situation, where I seek for help, where I acquire knowledge on how to better myself out. Looking at age 10 and 19, that is our future Jain.
Imagine.
When I was growing up, I'm a little bit old. I'm 54 and I love it. 54. Somebody says it looks good on me.
It does.
You could hardly hear anybody committing suicide. But now, Jain, we know even small little children, 7 years, are committing suicide.
Yes.
So you must talk about it, telling them it is not an option. They think that they are running away from problems, but they are literally taking themselves into eternal problems. So the sooner we tell them to speak out, the better. And I pray that our sons and our daughters will have a heart that hears Jain. When you look at the word heart, if you could spell out the word heart and we remove T, what do we have? Here. Yeah. If we could remove H and T, we have ear. So all those problems that we have bottled up in our heart because of things that were done to us. I remember last week I said, if we could reflect back to the days of out of school because of COVID, our children came home very excited. Unfortunately, we exploited them. Jain, I don't know what has happened to the men, because most rape, actually 99% of rape is done by men, but not all men are rapists. So these children have been defiled by their parents, by their siblings. But we are telling them, you can turn your mess into a message. You can turn your wood into a message. Just because it happened to you doesn't mean you're doomed. No, you can raise up again. Then now, they went out to experiment. And we know we have just celebrated or commemorated HIV and AIDS Day, and the statistics are not very good either, where they're telling us 88 children are getting infected for HIV and AIDS every day. So we are also telling them, regardless of what you have done or where you have been, doesn't tell you to suicide. There's an option out. You can speak. We've all had challenges.
Yes.
Jane, I'm getting excited because they called me a bad name in school.
Yes.
They called me full stop. But that doesn't make me a full stop anymore. You can turn it round and shine.
You can make your mess into a message.
Yes.
All right. Let me come to you, Mercy. You know, when you talk about the global burden of mental illness, 10-year-olds being part of this 13% and 15-year-olds to 19-year-olds committing suicide as one of the top solutions to the problem. What does this tell you about the mental state of our kids?
Right. As we continue talking about suicide, let us look at it like this. How did a 10-year-old, just 10 years, get to that state? And that one takes us back to what we shared last week. We talked about factors that affect humans' behavior.
Yes.
They just don't happen overnight. And we talked about the prenatal, postnatal, and even perinatal. And perinatal, at this case, when you talk about 10 years old, is very important. It's the age between 22 months before you're born and the time you're born. Do you know so many things happen between that time and people don't know? Ladies, do they talk about what they go through during delivery? What happens to that child during delivery? Sometimes you have very difficult deliveries. What happens? The trauma. Does the child get that trauma? How is it taken care of after delivery? Because that is where it all starts. Again, where else does it start? The mental wellness of this parent who is giving birth. For instance, let's take an example. Someone who is really depressed gets pregnant. So what is happening to this person's life? It is going to the child directly. Yeah. So we talk about 10 years, but remember, it started even before they were born. The parent maybe was doing substance abuse. Maybe they were on prescription medicine. If you look at the same statistics, you'll see there are so many medications that are given to pregnant ladies that are not supposed to be used while you're pregnant because they affect the development of the child. The child starts developing from the womb. They don't start developing when they are born. So once they are born, what happens to them? How are they taken care of? Maybe let me share these. It's a little story.
Yes.
With this person's permission. She was born this year, and the following year, the brother was born, and in 8 years there were 5 of them. Yeah. So 8 years, you have 5 children. So let me ask you: you are pregnant and you have a small baby. What is happening to this lady? Has she even healed from the first delivery? I don't think so. So what happens to this child? This child is neglected automatically. It is not even the fault of the parent. She doesn't even know. The mother doesn't know. She's just raising her child the best way she knows. But it has an impact on the children's life. Slowly by slowly, it is happening in their mind. They are getting programmed. Like, for instance, this person was parented when she was 1 year old. Or even less, because I can imagine if you're pregnant, you need help, and you have a small child, you'll be like, give me that, give me that. So the person is a child, but they're already being parented. They need to be cuddled, they need to be taken care of, but now they've been put aside because another baby is coming, and another one, and another one, and another one. So this child became a parent at 1 year old. So what happens? They did not develop the way they were supposed to develop. So in their mind, the parent is not neglecting them automatically, that I don't love you, but that is the language the child is getting. Yes, they are getting, I don't love you. You are, they'll be like, ini mtoto, so you are grown up.
This one needs it more than you.
Yes, as in, and it happens, but we don't think it has an impact on. So if this child continues growing like that, they will grow with that programming that I'm an adult. And they are adults even when they are 1 year old, because that is what was put in them. And they will grow taking care of these other children and everybody, because that is the program that was put in them. And they will continue like that. By the time this child is 10 years, let me tell you, they are already so tired. They don't have an exit. When they go to say, oh, I want, wewe ni mtu mkubwa, and they are still children. So they never got an exit to remove these things. Like Catherine has said, they've bottled up things since they were 0 years or even before. And those things are not thrown away. They go into a subconscious mind. Yeah. So how do we operate every day? Every day, like the way we are here, all of us, our brain operates like this. The conscious mind is only 10%, where we are thinking, the things we are talking. But the one that is in operation all the time is the subconscious mind, the one we don't know. Like you can say something here and I'll take it so personally, I will even start a fight. But what happened? It was a trigger. Maybe something that happened when I was even 3 years old. Yeah. So, Catherine has talked about the rape cases. You know, so many of them have been defiled, abused, and raped, but they didn't say. What have they done? They've put it. So every time anything is mentioned about rape or they see, it is triggered. And this is how they end up committing suicide, because it is too much. And it is called an emotional pain. The emotional wounds, the emotional pain is too much. You want to make it physical. And that's why most of the times when you see those people who want to commit suicide, they start by making cuts on themselves, self-harming. They start doing some, you'll see someone is doing some crazy games, but they don't care, because the physical pain is better than they're trying to release the emotional pain in a bad way. And that is, yes.
Now, you've brought in a very important aspect, and it's actually one of the biggest causes of mental illness when it comes to children, and that is the parental responsibility. And I'd love for us to talk a bit about that, because for most of the time, as my Bairo decides to take a dive, whenever we talk about parents, and in this particular case, firstborns, you know, they're considered to be deputy parents, they're considered to be the deputy drivers, the deputy chefs, the deputy caregivers, the deputy nurses, in the absence of the parents for the other siblings. And arguably so, the way you have brought it out is that it also impacts their mental health at one point or the other. And I'd like to hear from you, Catherine. You know, do you think as parents sometimes we take it too far when it comes to how we raise our children, and especially firstborns, and the amount of responsibilities that we place on them about their siblings?
Thank you, Jane. You know, parenting is the only school that you walk and you learn in it. Like you go and say, I do, you get a certificate before you start doing the things. But now that you're already there, what are we going to do? When I was growing up, my mother, and I'm sure even your mother, had eyes that were talking. Oh, yeah? Your mother could look at you and you know, Harper. So what I want to sell to each one of us as parents now, because you're the parent of these that have given birth to 5 children in 8 years, what are we going to do? And we have to parent all through, knowing again we are parenting where we are competing with technology, and we are competing with a lot of peer pressure. So I want to encourage we parents to have eyes that are hearing. Remember, I talked about the heart that is hearing, now eyes that are hearing, because our children have gone through all those trauma, and we cannot hold them into a room and tell them, let us go and learn and know how you're going to come and help you, so that you can be able to grow together. So as a parent, you look at your children and you're able to hear what they are not telling you. The way our parents could look at us and we know it is not right, can we now look at our children and understand what they are telling us? Then all parents, what we need to understand is it is us to sacrifice for the sake of our children, not the other way around. Yes, it's true, we must be busy out there making money, but can you remember the 4 C's where I said we must connect? Can we be so connected? Like now, Jane, you have told me that some schools are closing tomorrow. And again, we are saying Merry Christmas. Even as they come, can we be able to slow down so that we can accommodate them? Can we be able to slow down and see what they are not telling us, so that now we can be able to correct them? Unfortunately, we want to run and correct. When they come and say, Mommy, I have been defiled, you look at her and you say, well, boy, it is because nimekukanya na haukanyiki. Can you come to this side so that we don't victimize the victim? Because when we victimize a victim, we make her a triple victim, and now she goes into depression. Can we own it together? And you know, unfortunately, this defilement is also happening in the comfort of our homes. And I normally tell mothers that parenthood is 24/7 shift. Every day you're parenting. So you must make sure, even as you do your paternal as a parent, you have the time for your children. I normally call it, Jane, a time with my children only, where you have even to leave your gadget, your telephone, your laptop deliberately downstairs. And for we that are privileged to be living on the 7th floor, you can imagine if you left your phone downstairs deliberately, you will not even want to go back for it. You'll have time with your children so that you can be able to see what they are going through. Parenting is an everyday job. And the only way that we can be able to parent is by allowing God to minister to us to parent, and those eyes that are hearing. Jane, you know, as a teen mentor, they give me very good things. They tell me, Madam, we have been telling each other mavajoni fara, where they are telling each other that if you have not had sex, you're food. So you must be able to come and drill down to them. And then as parents, we must make sure we don't give in to the demands of the children. But again, you're not going to start there and say, never, no, no. You must make sure we become friends with them, but we are still parent to them. Because now the children are pushing us and they're telling us, Madam, if everybody is saying, Mavajoni Fara, Mommy, why can't you take me to be put the no plant? Mommy, why can't you buy for me condoms? And I know of a parent who told me, Catherine, I have a place where I put condom for my sons, and when I come and they're not there, I'm like, wow. And I'm saying, yes, you may have given them the condoms to fight HIV and AIDS, but you're taking them into depression. So as parents, we must make sure that we know we are the grown-ups in the game. Or can I even say we are the grown-up in the mess? But there is hope. So that now we can be able to take our God-given role as a parent. We are the authority, that the office that God operates on to grow children. So that we can be able to do what I said last week, where we have to harmonize as we hammer them. Yes, it is Christmas time. What have you planned for your children? And you know, Christmas was never going to go away because there was COVID. Nobody cares. The children do not care. They know Christmas has come. So can we be able to talk with these children because they also understand, instead of assuming that they will understand. Jane, the word assume, spell something funny for me. The first 3 letters, then the third letter, and the 2 last letters. I will not want to say it now. I see you have coded it. So we cannot assume anything. We must be able to slow down so that we can reach to our children. Somebody said, the highest or the lowest moment is when you bed down to listen to your children. But as African, you call Mami, we'll shout back and what are you saying? So this now we must be able to know that you're not only parenting alone, we are parenting where they are being parented more by internet. That is why my colleague Mercy has said they cut themselves because they went and asked Mr. Google, which is the easiest way to go down. They know what to do it. So you must make sure that you up your game. We pull all the sources.
Now, still looking at that parental role when it comes to causes or triggers of mental illness among children, let's talk a bit about sibling rivalry. And this starts from a very young age. Unasikia mbona ufanye kama brother yako, mbona ufanye kama sister yako. Parents having a favorite child over the others. To what extent does this contribute to this global burden of mental illness and suicide that we are seeing today?
All right. Well, it does. But let's talk about, first of all, how does it start? When you get children, it's good for you to first, even before you get a child, it's good to first reparent yourself. What is reparenting self? Reparenting self is going back to that child. We all here, even when seated here, we all have a child in us that never grows and never dies. That child, are you in harmony with that child? Because now those are the repressed. So reparent self. Ask yourself questions. Heal from there. Ones. Otherwise, even when you say about sibling rivalry, they happen not because they want, they're actually just happening because the wounds, the mother wounds, the father wounds are still there. And a parent will not realize. And another thing we could say about that is all children are different. Just because you get a firstborn, he or she is like this, you don't expect the secondborn to be like that. And that's why I always tell parents, don't compare your children with another child, not necessarily yours, even another one.
But I can tell you, as a matter of fact, almost everybody at one point, they can say, me at I was growing up, my father used to say this, or my mother used to say this about me and my brothers.
Very true, very true. So what can we do? always compare them with themselves. Comparing is good, but with self. This is where I was yesterday, this is where you are today. But if you compare them, it depends, why are they, maybe they're not performing well. Instead of comparing them, try and find out why are you not performing well, instead of usiukue kama huyu. Yeah, maybe as we have said, when perinatal stage was happening, maybe that child's brain was injured, but you're there comparing them, and you know it. As a parent, you might know it or not know it. Personally, I don't go to the blame game, not even the parents, not children, not teachers. We go to why is it happening, with the why. And once you know the why, the how comes in automatically. Yeah, you started like this, like a child may start maybe in doing, we really like the school thing, doing well in school, and suddenly they go down. You should ask yourself, why is this happening? Not the child. First of all, leave the child. Ask why is it happening. Then the child comes in and say, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm doing. And you'll find out sometimes there are small things like just attitude, and sometimes there are big things like this child is going through abuse or something. So it is, even the siblings, don't compare them because this one is doing better than this one. Compare them with themselves, who were they yesterday. And for parents, let's go back to parenting yourself. You have to parent yourself. And how do we do this? Some of the mistakes we do is we actually escalate issues. Yeah, something small, you escalate it. It becomes, someone fails today, hiyo siku hawatakula vizuri. I'm doing this. Yeah, I remember one child came and told me, my father asked, why are we paying for an expensive D? So you come here and here you see, now what have you done to that child?
All right, let me just interject at that point. Let's take a very quick breather. We'll be back to pick up from that particular point of what does it mean to parent yourself. Of course, as we also get to hear from you, Catherine, when you talk about sibling rivalry stemming from the parents. We welcome you to share with us your thoughts in regards to this conversation all about mental illness and consequently wellness, and especially so focusing on the teen group. Welcome your thoughts. Use the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. We'll be back after this quick breather. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us this far. We want to continue with this conversation today about mental illness and wellness, and particularly so narrowing in on our teenagers and young adults for that matter. With us in studio this morning, we have Chege, who is a psychologist and transformational coach, as well as Catherine Karira, who is a youth and teen mentor. Now, we want to pick up from where we left off, and one significant phrase that stood off was the expensive D that, you know, a comment a parent may easily make when it comes to our children not performing very well in school. And I want to just hear from you, Catherine, looking at this particular aspect of parents comparing children, consequently leading to sibling rivalry and consequently mental illnesses that stem from such comments.
Thank you, Mercy. Fortunately, I was not compared to anybody because I'm the baby in the family.
Last born.
But I know how to bring home an expensive D. That one that Mercy talked about.
You participated.
And I want to encourage our parents, and I hope they are going to understand this, that we are all gifted, but gifted differently. Including that child that a slow learner, there's a gift in them. And God has created us like these 5 fingers. They are all very important, but they are different in sizes, in weight, and in height. They are all different,
and
we need them. Yeah, and we all need them. They work in harmony. So what we need to do is be harmonious. The expensive D, it is very sad for the parent to have told the child that, but must we pay to get this expensive D? And let me say that even that expensive D can work it very well. I said earlier, I had a nickname when I was in school. They called me Full Stop. But I worked hard, and today I'm no longer Full Stop. And I celebrate myself because those that called me Full Stop, they watch at me and they say, God, you have good English. So what I want to tell our parents is, can we understand the next thing that I'm going to say?
Yes.
That God has not created anybody that is an empty vessel. God has given us a task in life. Before I talk about the siblings rivalry, a task in life, talent. A, ability, S, skills, K, knowledge. So that parent, you don't just look at the grade A. I normally say grade A without character, you become a clever devil. So we must make sure we grow the child the way they are. Mercy, let me talk about myself, because parents seem to have scored all the A's. It's only me that never brought home an A. Actually, I see A's now, or I see them at the neighbor's place. But that has not stopped me getting to places beyond my expectations because of putting an extra effort. If parents, you could encourage your child to put an extra effort as you tell them you can make it better than they are today, you're going to get a hero out of them. Because all of us were created heroes. But because of the bad things that have been told to us, we tend to forget who we are and where we are going. Sibling rivalry is not something new. We have seen it in the Bible, where Cain and Abel, they had it. But parents, you must start up strong. You must tell them, all of you are my children. And my mother tells me something, and God bless her. My mother and my father, they are alive. My mother tells me, we are 6 siblings of us. And she tells me, the love she has for us, though divided into 6, and to the grandchildren that we have given her, it is all in equal portions. So parents, let us not have one that is we love so much more than the others. Can we be able to love everybody together, knowing they are different? They are gifted differently. And let me now, because you know we have closed schools and we are closing school, let me talk to you, parent. Your child has come home with a report form that he has an expensive D. That child is still yours. And that child is still a gift from God. And having a D today doesn't mean they cannot become the star that you want them to become. So it is your words, and you know what's great. And that, Jane, that reminds me of the newspaper. The other day I was very annoyed when I saw them saying that our nightmares have come home. Parent, let me tell you this. Children are not our nightmare. Society, we must know how to separate the issues and the passion. It is true our children, they have misbehaved. It is true they have banned the schools. It is true they have done all the wrong that they could have done. But they are not wrong. There is still hope. Jane, can I preach kidogo? Preach. If God could use Paul, Saul, who was a killer, who was a murderer, and he became the Paul that we love, why are we calling our children nightmare? They are not. Mommy, as they come with that report form that is not readable, by the way, it is still yours, hug them and encourage them. Then, mommy, what was your score? What did you get? So that even as we call our children expensive D's, Daddy, did you get the E? Thank you.
Oh, the A. I can tell for a fact my father got A's. Akituambia sisi tulipata A, that is for a fact. But that calls for a lot of self-awareness as a parent. And this goes back to what you were saying, Mercy. Parenting your inner child so that you can be able to sort of not be one of the causes of any mental illnesses for your child. How would you suggest parents go about this?
All right. Let me go back to sibling rivalry just a bit.
Sure.
This is a story for another day. We need to have another session for that. In psychology, there is something called birth order. Yeah, a firstborn cannot be like a secondborn, cannot be like a thirdborn and fourthborn. A firstborn is a leader. The secondborn is always a competitor. When we do that next, we'll come with the real terms. Yeah, the thirdborn is usually the scapegoat, the harmonizing of the family, and the lastborn, the diplomat, is the darling of them. Yeah. So again, as a parents, just know that kids will never be the same. So when you're dealing with the firstborn, be very careful. Be very careful. Yeah. So we are going back to reparenting.
Yes.
How do you reparent self? Let me tell you, reparenting self is not one of the easiest thing to do, because it says go back. I love listening to Catherine, and she talks about Kwejera, digging deep. Yeah, reparenting is like that digging deep of a narrow route. You have to dig deeper
to find it.
For instance, you have to dig deep even how you were even born and stuff like that, and then come healing with from those traumas, slowly by slowly. It is actually one of the toughest thing someone can do in their lives, but the best. So what happens when you reparent self? You get into harmony with self and the inner child, the wounded child or the happy child, whatever child is in there. So when you see your child, you don't project. Yeah, like if you got pregnant when you were young, trust me, whenever you see your daughter growing or your son, you what comes to your mind? You're always triggered. Now, is it going to happen like me? You know. So what are you doing? Exactly. So
those
this
statements
child,
that parents casually throw around.
True. This child will never have peace, and you'll always be. So the mistakes we do if we don't reparent ourselves, one of the biggest mistakes is we're always expecting the worst. Like now, why are we expecting nightmares to come home? Anyway, let me not go that direction.
And that was an actual headline in all the dailies.
For me, like, children are gifts. They are blessings. Why would I call my blessing a nightmare? That one, you can see. It's because you're still hurting inside, or some things that happened, or things that happened. It's not your child that is stopping you from getting what happened or what you're supposed to be doing right now, but because they're there, you're like, I'm not going to party. You see, I'm not going to go with friends where now you're thinking your child is your block. No, your child is not a block. It is your inner child which is a block. So let us continue looking inwardly. Another thing we can do like we're looking inwardly is being having compassion with both the children and ourselves, forgiving ourselves. One of the biggest things I talk about is forgiveness, and forgiveness is another tough one. Forgiving self and forgiving others is not easy. Sometimes we think when you forgive, you're helping the other person or someone else. Until you forgive and you realize you're the one who have come out of prison. Yeah, you will not. Anytime someone is mentioned, you don't have to go crazy, or you don't have to go out of control, because you're already at peace. The other thing is self-love. Love yourself first. You always say you cannot pour from an empty vessel or cup. You have to fill your cup. So once you fill your cup with love, you will be able to pour the love to your children and to others. The other thing is your thoughts. And this one, maybe I'll give an illustration. Maybe today we have garden A and garden B, and we just plant maize in garden A and maize in garden B. Then we take care of garden A the way it's supposed to be taken care of. We water it, we weed it, when the time to spray, we spray, but garden B, we left it. What will happen to garden A and what will happen to garden? And that is how our thoughts are. Whatever you keep on thinking about, you are growing it. If you keep on thinking your child like a nightmare, trust me, they will be a nightmare, because that is all you want to see. You will continue seeing. So even when they are doing something very amazing, that one mistake you have always focused upon, it will become a nightmare. A magnitude and a nightmare you are looking for. And it is just small. Maybe if you start looking at the good things, they will overshadow them. And this will give these children confidence. Maybe they got a D, but they did very well in their cultural day or their music festival. How about you grow? Maybe that is where their talent is. So focus on the positive thoughts and grow them. And trust me, we will come out of this thing of thinking our children like as nightmares.
I love that. Remember, we're talking about mental wellness for our teens and youth, and especially now that they are home. As a parent, you could take the time to just rediscover and rebuild these conversations with your children. Be the one to open those channels of communication with the children to understand where they're coming from with the concerns that they have that they may not actually be sharing with you. And this brings me to emotional and social disorders that our kids may be having from a very young age. And let me start with you, Catherine. You know, it is actually one of the major mental illnesses that the World Health Organization did identify that affect our children: social phobias and emotional disorders that stem from the household. What do you make of this?
You know, even social phobia now, because they have come home and they are looking at their phones and they're looking at Jain and they're imagining she's so beautiful than myself. So these children are having so much pressure inside themselves. We are all emotional beings. We have been hurt, we are hurting, we are crying, but I want us to appreciate that we'll never be equal. Not at any given time. Even if we all scored A's, we'll have a stronger A than a weak and a weaker one. So what you need to do, educate this child that they are the very best, the garden A. Let us focus on the strength of this child, so that even when they know I have a weakness, we know all of us, you have a weakness, but we're not going to fail to go forward because you don't have a weakness. And what each one of us need to know is realize that we have 10 characteristics in a person. We have 10 strongs and 10 weak ones. And we are not going to excel by looking at our weakness. It is our strength. So that we can be able to help the child understand I am a hero. And now again, Jane, we know as a teens mentor, I would not do justice to not speak about the next thing, which you mentioned about teenagers being pregnant. We know it takes 2 to make a baby. But Jane, it takes 1 to stop the pregnancy. I normally tell the girls usipeane. So if the girl would refuse and say this Christmas I'm not going to have sex, they are going to walk in safety. Then also now, because it is Christmas, let the children understand what is my right, what is my privilege. Because today we try to confuse the 2 words, a right and a privilege, so that they don't go to have emotional turmoil because they have been denied a phone. Jane, we have had children commit suicide because they have been denied a phone, or they have been denied to go and spend a night out. And it's yesterday, and it's very sad, where a young girl is murdered by her boyfriend and they went to spend out. So what you want to tell our children is these times are very hard. Social pressure can be leading to very funny areas. And I normally tell them, and I hope English will favor me this morning, that you should not bite at the bait of pleasure, because there's pressure underneath it. So even as your parents are telling you, slow down, Jenny, you make sure you slow down with even the bitterness, with the annoyance, because you're annoyed. Mommy, our children are, everybody is going to shake a leg and you have told me to stay at home. You can stay at home. Jane, I have celebrated 54 Christmases. So we are telling these girls, can you tone down, and the boys, so that you can have it better all through. And then, you know, Jane.
Yes. Now, allow me to just jump in at that particular point, because I think that is also an area as parents we need to show our children, as opposed to just telling them, usifanye because and I'm just using an example that of conversation that we had in a different space. We always tell our children, wachana na vijana, wachana na wasichana. And they get to 30, 40 years, naza akwapi msichana, akwapi bibi, akwapi bwana. And yet you are the parent who was telling them, achana na wasichana, achana na vijana, but yet you were not there to guide them through how they're supposed to go about these various stages in life. You tell them not to do one thing, but at the end, they're the extreme, you expect of them what they should have done with the other gender. How do we become practical in these conversations with our children about their sexuality?
Let me tell the children why we tell them wachana kijana when you're in school. Because you finish Form 4 at 18 or 17, that is your foundational, those are your foundational years. Your body may be looking bigger than myself, but you're not fully grown. And human brains don't mature until we are 24. We are telling you to grow your foundation very well, ground it very well, so that you can be able to study in your marriage. However, we also want to understand, most of us that are seated in this quorum, we come from where a lot of young men have died because of kumi, because of those other things. So we are saying the men compared to women, do we have a challenge there? So we also want to tell them to open up. Now we are saying when they have come to 30 years and have not gotten a spouse, I want to
they have ended up with a spouse of the same gender because you told them.
All right. I want to same gender, by the way. That is Jane and Mercy. The word of God, that is when and it is the right that makes us live right. It calls it an abomination. It says it's a disgusting thing. And I even ask, how do they make it? How do they make love? And I'm told they use the fingers, or they could use the test tube, or it is unnatural. And what the word of God calls unnatural, Jane, still remains unnatural even today. Or even where it is Kama and Frank. And you know, they normally tell me they pass on through the behind one. And you know, behind one, Jane, now you took me there. It is so. What we need to do to know is, and I hope, Jane, you can say with me this one, that when we disobey God, we give the devil authority to assault us. Homosexuality, which Jane you have brought, the word of God talks about it in Romans chapter 1, verse 22 going down, that God gave us over. He has thrown us out. Now we do the unnatural as natural, we exchange it and we burn with wrong passions for each other. Let me tell you, just because you're Kamau and you're feeling yourself for Karira this Christmas, it is wrong. Jain, Mr. Hen, you know him, Mr. Hen? He's called Mr. Jogo. Jogo has a very small head. And you know, Jain, I've never seen a jogo amechanganyikiwa anazirokera ka jogo kegine kisugu imeisha. Jogo always runs round at Kamwera and the female. Yeah, the female. What are we saying? Unfortunately, I know some of us were recruited into it, were initiated into it. Actually, initiation is the best word because it's very demonic. And habit that has been learned, Jain, can be unlearned. Unfortunately, now, this is not just a straight habit. It's a habit that is demonic. I normally say behind every evil habit, there's a demon. So this demon needs to be rebuked. Kamau, you need to wake up and cry out. But again now, Jain,
yes,
because you have brought now homosexuality, sex is happening in our children, allow me to tell them this, that private part disease should not be kept privately. Because when you keep your private part disease privately, it will eat you up privately and painfully. So children, now that you have come home, please ask for help. Go to that government hospital, even there's a dispensary next to you, and tell them, I feel bad in there. And the easiest question is, how would I know that I have an STI, an STD? If you have funny discharge, and I said funny, that is that one, that it is bad smell, ask for help, and you know where you're coming from. Even you that were defiled, please go and ask for help. And again, mommy, you know the children have come home and you can see they are pregnant. And mommy, you're asking now what is going to happen, and they're in Form 4. Allow them to give birth, then return them back to school. Abortion, Jain, is another topic for another day.
Yes.
But let me say, abortion is not an option. It is murder. It is a crime. And abortion does not return your daughter to a girl. It makes her a killer mother.
Now, let me come back to you, Mercy, still on the same aspect about social phobias and emotional disorders that are a trigger for mental illnesses among today. How can parents step in a practical way, as opposed to just always saying usifanye hii, usifanye hii, usifanye hii, always telling them what not to do, but not telling them what to do or how to do it?
All right. Yeah, that's a very good question and a very good area. First of all, we need to understand adolescence is where most of the changes happens, and big changes. One, it is usually associated with anxiety. You can imagine you didn't have breasts, suddenly they're here. Your voice is breaking. Of course, that child will start having anxiety, and they will start wondering, and then they happen differently. They differently in different people. So it is not a very good, that's why it's called a crisis age. Well, it is not. One thing I know that parents don't do, not even parents, all of us, we don't allow transitions the way they should happen. Anytime a child is born, there is always transitions, and they cannot do the transition themselves. This now is where the parent comes in. Even when you get pregnant, start transiting yourself. Just start knowing this is a responsibility, like what Catherine have said, 24/7 responsibility that has landed. I need to do this, I need to change this, transition. And even as they grow, when they are toddlers, when they are preschoolers, when they are going to, and the place where you need to do a very good transition now, the practical part you're talking about is the adolescent one. This is not the time we start telling them, do not, do not, do not, without telling them what to do. So what do? Make sure you set rules. And these rules allow them, you don't set rules like usiende, usiende, usiende. Usifanye, usifanye, usifanye. Set rules like, say what this one is, you can say, we are not coming into this house past 5. Explain what is the reason, why, and the consequences. What do we do if this happens and this and this? Teenagers are very good in taking this information once it is done well. And then remember, they are boys and girls. They are given information differently. We know of the boy child. Give a boy child so much information and you lose them. And this one I'll tell parents to go do it practically in their home today. Take a young boy, send them even to the kitchen. Tell them, take this plate, put it on in the sink, bring this and this, and then you come back. Trust me, they'll only do one thing. They will come back. Most of the time they hear there, the last word. You'll only come back. So once you're doing that, don't lecture. I tell parents, this is not a lecturing time. This is a conversation that we have said you give information, you give reasons and consequences or whatever happens.
Yes.
Number 2, be flexible. Maybe you had said we're not doing this and this. Remember, they are growing. Like maybe in my house, I have a toddler and I have a teenager. I'll tell the toddler, of course, to sleep at 8. You will not tell the teenage boy to sleep. Of course, they'll tell you at school you sleep at 10. Allow them to sleep at 10, but now know what they're doing at that time. As in, be flexible, be friendly. And then another thing, practical, go to their space. Not always calling them out. Go to them. Like if they watch a movie, that day don't go and start saying this is what we are watching. No, watch what they are watching so that you can get to. They start finding you more like we can talk to you, more friendlier, more like we can open up to you. But every time nini him unaona, no, that one they will always reject, rebel, and they will look like they don't want to see you. Go to their space. The other thing is be consistent. Once you set rules, make sure you follow them. You don't say this and then tomorrow you say this. You confuse them, and they are the most clever age.
And they watch what you do.
They will run you like I don't know what. So be very consistent, and they will know, even if I go to mom with this one, I will have to really convince her. And when they come with that mentality, trust me, they are coming to dialogue, they are coming to talk, and they will open up. They will not come with the crafty issues they bring. They will come on a serious note. So the other thing, as we talked about reparenting, so that we know how practically we do it, even you as you deal with them, try and get to their level. Yeah? Go back to a teenage and start thinking like a teenager.
Summon yourself.
Exactly. If I was this age, what could I be doing? Go back to your... Because once we grow older, we forget that we came from that place. And this one I'll tell parents, even when you're dealing with a 4-year-old, go to their level. And this is when I tell parents, when a child speaks to you, either if it's a small child, lift them up and talk to them, or go down. And why am I mentioning this? Because you will not do this from when they were very small and start doing this when they are older. They will start wondering, what is this? Why are you changing? Why are you becoming friendly suddenly? So start doing it earlier. When it comes to teenage years, it is not going to be complicated.
All right. Now, as we bring the conversation to a close, let me come to you, Catherine. What are your recommendations when it comes to both parents and the teens and youth that we are talking about today, when it comes to understanding our mental space, understanding the mental illnesses that we may be struggling with, and potential healthy coping mechanisms that we can take up that are not harming to us or to the people that surround us?
We need to be very open with each other. We need to come into their space, as my colleague has said. And as we come into that space, let us not imagine they don't know. They already know too much. So you're coming in not at their level, but at their space. And Jane, I'm not able to talk outside the Bible. The Bible will tell me that some people ruin themselves by their own stupid actions. So we must now be able to tell our children that we are helping you so that you can understand yourself, because that understanding themselves will make them outstanding. And if there's anything the teenagers and the preteens and the youth need, is to be outstanding, so that they can be able to understand themselves and be outstanding. And they cannot be outstanding by following up what their peers are doing. They can be upstanding by creating their own path and walking in that path and consistently doing it and doing it well again. So the holiday is very short for us, but that is not the end of it. Parenting is a full-time job. Parenting is an everyday affair. And Jesus even told us that he has sent us to a very hostile world, but we must be as polite as the dove and as cautious as the snake. We must be as wise. So parents, even as we get into their space, we must be very wise. Understand what these children want. Understand yourself also. Kama ni moods, we must make sure that now that they have come home, can we hang our moods somewhere? We pick them in January. Because you can imagine, Jane, you have the moods. Your teenager has the moods. What is going to happen? And for the teenagers, because you know the moods are even higher, you must make sure that you understand your moods so well, so that your moods are not going to demand the wrong words on your parent. Because again, when we say the bad things to our parents, we are not only hurting them, we are also annoying God. So that teenagers will understand that at this time I want to figure out, but it's a time that can be disfigured. And you know, the holiday has been squeezed to only 10-14 days, and December is the holiday where we have a lot of negative peer pressure. So that children will understand. Like now, we have brought this topic. Can parents also now look for it again and listen together with the children? Come to their space. And then again, Jane, you know, we are parenting when our internet is speaking so much. We must tell our children the don't and the do's and the why. Like now we know that if we can go and check pornographic movies, most of those children and almost all the viewers are on the pornographic movies, and we know pornography is not innocent. We have to openly speak. What I think I called last time the hot talk, where I said we have to be very honest, where we have to be open, and we have to be very truthful. And now that I have brought pornography, let me say that pornography fuels masturbation. Another very stubborn demon. So we must be able to tell our children, let us not assume. And also let us make sure that we don't leave our children to follow masses. Again, Jane, a funny word there. When M is silent, you can imagine what we have. Parent, what I want to tell you is Proverbs 26:16, and allow me to quote it in Kiswahili.
Preach, preacher.
It says, mtu aikosaye njia ya busara atakaa katika mkutano yao waliokufa. So we must be able to give our children busara. And for you children, you must be humble enough to hear and to obey. Thank you.
Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they'll not depart from it.
Thank you.
Proverbs 22:6. Coming to you, Mercy, also in regards to your closing remarks and recommendation to parents, to the children, to the teens, when it comes to picking up healthy coping mechanisms to deal with, because we are all troubled at one point or the other.
Yeah.
What healthy coping mechanisms would you recommend?
All right. Before I do that, allow me to pick up from where Catherine left about masturbation.
Yes.
And I want to bring this out in a way that you find people having other new behaviors that were not there. Maybe someone has never taken alcohol in their lives, and suddenly you see someone is staggering, and you wonder, where did this come from? So what happens is there are different kind of addictions. Non-chemical addictions and chemical addictions. Pornography, masturbation, those are non-chemical. But they usually go down until they come to chemical addiction. You watch pornography, you watch it until now it gets you to masturbation. Masturbation goes out of hands. Then now you want to calm it down, you go to drugs. Now you come to chemical addiction. So I wanted to just point out that when you start these things, just like a tap on the phone, it might bring you even to drug addictions, trying to get out of it. So good coping mechanisms.
Yes.
Maybe I'll use that because it's a closing remark. Let me use the 3 C's. All of us are given, I'll start with the one is choices. Yeah, chances. We are all given a chance. When you wake up in the morning, that's a chance. If you feel like today, I'm feeling like it is the end of the day, it is my darkest day, you have a chance to make a choice. The next one is a choice. What is the coping mechanism here? Make a choice. You have to make a genuine choice. What will I do? Reaching out is a choice. Yeah. When you reach out, you come to maybe a mentor, a psychologist or somebody, they'll help you walk the tough walk. Have the hot conversation Catherine is talking about. Reach out to a parent. Your parents are not your enemies. They might not be looking so good when you tell them some stuff, but you still need to talk to them. And if you're not able to talk to that parent, talk to a teacher. It's still a choice, yeah? Choices have consequences. Yeah? One of the most thing I tell people is that the consequences we don't choose. And that is the worst part. But if you make your choices right, you will not have to suffer the crazy consequences. So we go back to the choices for the coping mechanism. If you feel like you've been hit to the corner, as a Christian, I usually say, one of the things that Christians were given and they refused to use is the Bible. There are so many promises. Start affirming yourself. You can affirm yourself. Even if it's so dark, you can say, as I walk in this valley of death,
the shadow of death.
You know, there are so many we can use, and that one can uplift you. Yeah. The other one is have healthy habits. These are choices. What are healthy habits? Have a routine. People who don't have healthy routines end up in trouble because you wake up, you're feeling down, you don't know what to do. So you continue going down and down and down. If you had a healthy routine, like a simple one, when you wake up, have a gratitude moment, have a devotion, maybe do an exercise. That can change your mood like every day, and it will keep you. You will be able to reach out. You'll be able to remain in that that top-notch energy. Tony Robbins is one of the amazing inspirations you can follow. They usually say your emotions are determined by your motion. Yeah. So how are you moving? Are you moving like sluggish like that? So your healthy habits. We have said do gratitude, do affirmations, do devotions. Those are very exercise. Those help you in picking up the day. Those are like the good coping mechanisms. So as I end, let us remember the 3 C's. The chance we have, we all have a chance. We all have 24 hours. It is you to know how am I going to use it. As a parent, what is this chance that I have with this child right now? Yes, I didn't parent well when they were young, but I still have a chance. What are the choices am I going to make? Am I going to take this child to a therapist? Am I going to start changing my ways because it starts with me? Am I supposed to fill my cup? As a teenager, I've already started masturbation. How am I going to get out of it? Or should I wait for it to go to chemical addiction? After you make the choices, just stay still, and the consequences, we will all have them.
Chance, choice, and consequence. In that particular order, they follow each other. Now, we want to bring this conversation to a close. Remember, this has been all about mental health and wellness for our children. And this is more so those aged between 10 and 19 years of age, because as per what the statistics have for us, they are the category that are heavily affected. They contribute to a huge percentage of the global burden of mental illnesses and diseases, and consequently resulting to suicide, which is among the leading causes of death in this age group as well. So as a parent, as short as the holiday may be, do take this opportunity to just build on the relationship with your child. However you choose to do this, again, you have the chance and you have the opportunity to make the choice. The consequences, unfortunately, we can never decide on them. But once you take the chance and make the choice, you'll be able to see the consequences of your action at the end of the day. We have been speaking with Mercy Chege, who is a psychologist as well as a transformational coach. And we also have been speaking with Karira, who is a youth and teen mentor. Thank you so much, ladies, for making time to be with us today.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas once again.
Merry Christmas and God bless you.
God bless you as well. Now, this brings us to this conversation, but we are not yet done with Good Morning Kenya. Do stay with us. We want to take a very quick breather. We'll be back with more of what we have lined up for you.